And welcome. We are in 303 and we've turned back again now to Craig Conrad's Unstoppable volume, and we are on page 30, that is to say lesson or chapter 10, The Real Prize. Let's just pause for a moment, go ahead and study in your journals. The focus of this chapter will be that the important stuff in life, that is to say the challenges of life, are rarely easy. Alright, and Mr. Conrad's going to have a couple of stories here to help us with that one. Lesson 10. Well over 50 students signed up to walk each day. He's obviously referencing lesson 9 in this discussion about the challenge to walk instead of drive to school. 7 of those students stuck with it, and only one of them was a girl. Her name was Michelle Rodwell. Barely 5 feet tall, she was also the smallest in the group. True height, I've told my students many times, isn't your physical height, it's your mental height. I'd look at that line again. It's a fascinating line. True height, he says, isn't your physical height, it's your mental height, your intellectual height, right? Michelle went home the day of the challenge and told her parents that she had signed up for what she had signed up for. Immediately, her mother said, "No way." Michelle lived several miles from school. Her mother worried about what could happen walking to school each day, especially at night after swim team practice, not to mention all the crazies out there, so Michelle was told no. Although Michelle was short in stature, she was tall in stubbornness. She told her mom she had signed up, and she wasn't about to cross her name off that list. After continued debate, Michelle's mom had no other choice, so she decided to walk with her. Each day, Michelle and her mom walked the several miles to school together. There was no phone ringing, there was no brothers asking for another piece of bacon, no husband asking for more coffee, just Michelle and her mom. Guess what they did each morning on their way to school? You got it. They talked to each other. No distractions. I truly believe this world would be a better place if more parents would take the time to talk to their kids. I knew the effect it was having on Michelle. What I didn't realize was the effect it had on her mom, but I found out the next year at parent-teacher conferences. Michelle's mom, Debbie, sat across the table and wept unashamedly. Debbie explained how they had gone from being good friends to becoming best of friends. While fighting back my own tears, she told me how much she was going to miss Michelle when she leaves for college. "Mr. Conrad," she said, "thank you so much," Debbie said while wiping her eyes. I said, "You're thinking the wrong person. Thank Michelle." Josh Roberts and his friend made 2 commitments the day of the challenge. The first was to walk every day. The second was to each other, to walk together. They followed the same route day after day. One time, during extreme weather conditions, a neighbor along the route stopped the 2 boys. She asked what they were doing. Months later, this same neighbor would stop me at the grocery store. She told me she and her husband would watch for the boys each day while having their morning coffee. We could tell what time it was because they were within minutes of the same time each day, she said. You could see your clock, you could set your clock by it. Josh used his master key after graduating from high school to unlock the door to a musical career. He started a band called the Invisibles. Josh personally delivered the group's first CD to me. I got a little choked up when I read the words on the jacket of the CD cover. "Thanks, Mr. Conrad, for the master key. This CD is dedicated to you." Jamie Mondew signed up for the 2 laps each day during his junior year. Since he lived way out of town, he faithfully did his 2 laps each day after school. Many times I'd yell to him, "Master key," as I passed the track. One day, he had a dentist appointment just before school ended. He had planned to do his laps after the appointment. As usual, the dentist was running late. Jamie had to leave immediately after the appointment to go to work. His job was putting the pepperonis on the pizza at Pizza Hut. He had to close that night. It was around 11 p.m. when he left work. He drove straight home, took a shower, put on his PJs, and was in bed by 11:30. He turned off the light and closed his eyes. That's when it hit him. He needed to do his 2 laps around the high school track. If he didn't do them tonight, he would have to cross his name off the list in less than 30 minutes. It would be tomorrow. It would be too late. Knowing he'd have to move fast, Jamie jumped out of bed and drove to the high school, still in his PJs. And just before midnight, Jamie walked his 2 laps. It was pitch black outside and the track was covered in snow. I saw his footprints around the track the next morning. Less than a year later, Jamie would become known throughout the school as Jumpin' Jamie Mundy, but only after he came out of the closet. We finish here with an observation again. This issue, as we have said it, of sustained will. Let's think for a few moments about this idea of making promises to ourselves. The promises we break to ourselves are, of course, the greatest challenge, right? But I have lots of students that will say, this is why I don't make promises to myself, because I have broken so many promises in the past. What is the point? One of the observations in an unstoppable curriculum is you have to forgive yourself for the violation of the promises that you've made to yourself. But this is hypercritical. You have got to make those promises to yourself. And then you're going to hold yourself responsible. That's the hard part, isn't it? Again, the difference between will or desire and sustained will. The new promises then that we make and the new ways that we challenge ourselves. I hope that you will begin to consider, what is a challenge I can give to myself that I then have to force myself to try to commit to? Of course, graduation is a good long-term goal. What are some short-term goals? Unstoppable, Chapter 10. Thank you.